The moment he opens his eyes, our boy realizes he's fallen back into the arms of a familiar hell. Before Sal can even ask where the hell he is, a shrewish servant pours ice-cold water over his head and orders him to clean up. Looks like he has an important date, but when our guy glares at her, he gets an ottoman slap from the fat maid. Even the raft flinched when that filthy, angry look of yours hit the water. That heavy slap he took was probably what brought him to his senses. When he came to his senses, he realized he was truly reborn. He was a total pawn in his previous life, of course. He was one of the shadows of the Cooper family. Before he was even weaned, the poor boy had gone through training as brutal as hell. Shadows would clean up all the family's dirty work with those bloody hands. And what would they get in return? Supposedly infinite wealth and fame. As the family's illegitimate child, Sal fought tooth and nail to change his miserable fate. Even if he was crushed by rich kids with no talent, our boy didn't give up and hide away. He worked like a maniac to make up for it. When no one would face it, she took charge and stepped up. He fought for his family with the loyalty of a dog. Whether it's hacking down enemies or taking heads, or cleaning up the remaining bodies, was done without a sound. After countless victories, he thought his family would award him a medal, but instead, he found slander in his lap. Looking back, you wish she hadn't been so naive. That's how Sal Cooper learned the disgusting, dark truth behind the shadows. Right before the execution, his master spoke with that filthy smirk. It turns out they bound him with a shadow oath the moment he became one. All that power he gained as he leveled up, it's been constantly flowing to his master. And to top it off, if his master gets a scratch, our poor sucker Sal feels the pain. The fame, the glory, the awards, they were all just to lure in fools like me. With rage and hatred exploding in his veins, he gathered his last strength and struck that treacherous master. In his final seconds, he cracked the secret of blood magic, reversed the oath, and tore back all the power his master had stolen. Now, in his second life, he had no intention of making the same mistake. Just as he was plotting his revenge, his stomach growled, so he snatched that greasy mouse he'd eyed and ate it right up, crunch by crunch. After all, these mice tasted much better than the human flesh he had sampled in his past life. Suddenly footsteps were heard, and two guys walked in. They pounced on you just because the master of the field was calling. Right then it clicked for Sal, this scene was that cursed moment from his past life. Right at that breaking point where he was chosen as a shadow. But his memories of that moment had faded. It's definitely that damn blood magic. That was exactly when it was done to him. Without hesitation, she bit the man's hand like a wild animal and escaped his clutches. Furious men are trying to jump our guy. But what is that? When flashes of his past life strike Salin's mind, the swordsman within awakens. With absolute ease, he's slicing the guy's arm right then and there. The other one's peeing his pants in fear, turning them yellow. A total disgrace. Their brains are melting, wondering how a tiny kid could fight like a professional assassin. Salsa knows very well from that filthy grin on his face that the time for revenge has come. Now, about this famous shadow oath business. In this ancient blood magic, the one who becomes the master of the oath sacrifices just a tiny drop of blood to make their victim a shadow slave. The poor shadow is becoming unable to even lift a hand against his master. On top of that, he's the one who has to suffer for all the beatings his master takes. So it's safe to say they're acting as human shields. What's more, all the power and skills gained by the shadow flow directly to the master for free. Of course, it's clear how cruel and twisted this spell is. That's why the Empire ordered these grimoires burned a century ago, trying to wipe them out. Anyway, let's get back to the point. Those incompetent guys who couldn't pack it by Tuesday are getting a heavy slap from Alan Cooper. Even though Alan is just an 8-year-old brat, he acts tough as the future heir of the Cooper family. The guy who got slapped is apologizing all pathetically because he got schooled by a 3-year-old. Alan walks up to Sal and starts preaching about how much nerve this shrimp had to put his men in the hospital. Our psychopathic young master Alan orders Saline to be thrown into the damp darkness of the dungeon immediately. But before the guards take action, Alan's mother, Hera Cooper, is stopping this madness, saying he went off the rails because he didn't have a parent around. He argues that since she's been wild since she was little, it's perfectly natural for her to act out like this. What a wonderful logic, though. It reminds us that instead of wasting time punishing a child, It's more vital to focus on the famous swearing and ceremony. Hera approaches the area, reminding them of what she said before, gently yet menacingly. Alan seems a bit rattled, but he's still curious deep down. Why did his mother choose Tuesday to be his shadow? She gives her mother that devious smile, eagerly looking forward to the day she destroys her. She's ordering a silencing spell so the noise inside won't be heard while she's with the maids. No one's supposed to disturb the area. Sure, if you buy that. As soon as Hera leaves, Alan fills a glass with water, raises it, and greets everyone in the room with that fake hospitality of his. They are all victims of the Shadow Army now. Poor kids, so excited to take their oaths and shout about sacrificing their lives. Poor lives wasted for the sake of family, and a herd of fools believing every blessing comes from them. But our little one is onto the scheme. The others drink the water like fools and just drop like flies. While they kiss the ground, Alan, grinning with a knife in hand, mocks these fools who can't tell medicated water from holy water. Vilek cuts his finger, lets the blood flow, and begins that famous Shadow Oath spell. He feels the magic working, the power coursing through his veins. Surprised it's this easy, he inflates his ego by calling himself a genius. Alan can't wait to run and tell his mother about this victory, but wait, what's this? His legs are locked up. A wave of panic sweeps through his body, and he begins to tremble with fear, wondering if this is a side effect of the Shadow Oath. His mother hadn't mentioned such a detail to him. He starts crawling on the ground and crying for his mother, when just then, a mocking voice is heard. The voice calls him a coward, mocking him now for trying to hide behind his mother's skirt. When Alan looks back, he remembers the bitter truth. Let her cry and wail all she wants, but with the soundproofing spell active, no one will hear her pathetic voice. Turning around with teary eyes, Alan sees Sal standing there with a sword. He instantly realizes he's facing Sal Cooper. As Alan trembles on the ground in fear, he can't wrap his head around how this loser Sal Cooper knows about the Shadow Oath. But Sal says with an evil grin that he knows much more. He wonders what Alan's expression would be if he broke his oath. The moment Sal stabs the sword into the ground, a sharp pain pierces the heart of the area like a knife. Not understanding what's happening, the child is terrified. Alan screams for him to stop and asks what he's trying to do. Sal is quite calm, talking about his past life. He says he gave his life to take back what was his, and in this life, he's just returning the favor. Suddenly, a scream echoes through the room. With the soundproofing broken, the servants and Hera wonder what on earth is going on inside. Hera immediately realizes it's her son Alan asking for help. She sits on the edge of the bed and starts checking on her son. The butler says the young master is healthy as a horse. He's just drained because he used such heavy magic. He attributes the breaking of the sound wall spell to the distraction of the servant who cast it. The woman takes the news calmly and, in a cold voice, orders that the maid be fed to the dogs immediately. The butler bows slightly to acknowledge the order. He adds that it's perfectly normal for the young master to look a bit nervous. After all, he's far too young for such shady business. The pressure has messed with his head. But Alan doesn't even hear them. Staring at a single point, looking like he's in a trance. Something went wrong, but what? His memory is blurred, he can't remember. His mother touches his forehead, smiles, and tells him not to be afraid of the shadows. He says it's just the law of the jungle. Alan pushes his mother's hand away and asks, as if there were another way. He's the future patriarch of the Cooper family. It's only natural for worthless people to die for him. Her mother loves this devilish smile. He says, "Now you are truly my son." Because he understands the world correctly. If he wants anything, he just has to say it. His mother would burn the world for him. They hug, and Alan accepts it with this momentum. He says she's the best mom in the world. Sal, over by the window, laughs while watching this mushy scene. What a sweet picture of mother and son. Sadly, from today on, Alan Cooper will live as Sal's loyal shadow. In her previous life, while fighting for her family, she found a forbidden book on blood magic. It contained a different version of the Shadow Oath. He presented this to the head of the family. But back then, he hadn't realized he was also under the influence. He devoured the book, blending his past experience with his current wit. Our little one is taking off the bandage. He thinks just a single drop of blood will be a trick enough to break this cursed oath. Alan, anyone who wished to climb to the pinnacle of power had to pass through Flame Mountain, Hell's branch on Earth. This cursed place, designed to train the Cooper clan's deadliest shadows, rivaled the legend of Prometheus stealing fire from the gods. Just like that unfortunate titan whose liver was torn out by an eagle every day. Children were also thrown into this fire pit and fed to birds of prey. Even death was not an escape ticket. The first shadow to reach the peak would receive an invincible body that knows no pain, the blessing of the griffin. In the shadow of these bloody promises, fresh victims took their first steps onto the ruthless training ground. Enos Walker, the shadow tamer, looked at the trembling brats and shouted that they only had 3 days left, or they'd be finished. The only rule was to reach the top alive. The method didn't matter, but anyone thinking of giving up was to be executed on the spot. The brutal race where they had to crush each other for their future had begun. As soon as the whistle blew, the kids rushed up the mountain like a swarm of ants. One of the instructors singled out that skinny kid slowly climbing at the very back of the pack and snitched on him to Enos. That kid was none other than Sal Cooper, the family disgrace and bastard who pissed off the young master the day before. Our little Sal was digging her nails into the jagged rocks as she climbed, while the man below laughed and told Enos to look at the view. They mocked this kid climbing with bare hands, thinking he'd surely fall and die, gleefully waiting for his end. Before reaching halfway, the coach joined in the fun, called Tuesday stupid, and asked his assistant why they weren't rushing to collect the body. Adam smirked wickedly, stating he had a bloodier plan, then checked his watch and signaled it was time for the real show to begin. At that exact second, a massive, terrifying shadow fell over the peak. The kids were about to wet themselves and asked me what this thing was. Was that an eagle? When Griffin emerged, the children realized it was a monster and screamed in terror. When Sal reached the peak, the sight of scattered child corpses and that massive griffin completely ruined the view. The monster's eyes gleamed with hunger as it bit into the young boy's lifeless body like a snack. Enos put on a sly smile, remembering how this brat son upset the young master yesterday, and devised a dirty scheme. He shot the arrow to flatter the young master. When it grazed the griffin's head, the monster just snapped. Griffin was fuming, screaming about who dared to do this, while Sal managed to climb onto the rock just in time. Griffin, who blamed Sal for the auction call, lunged at him calling him a fool, but Sal wanted to say the exact same thing to that bird brain. Our guy dodged the attack with a sudden maneuver. It was the voice of experience from someone who'd seen this movie before. Jump on the monster's back, draw your sword, and grin, saying, "I just need to tame you, big chicken." This griffin was a born flameborn, for star danger level, S-class badass male monster. It was said he gained telepathic powers by eating plenty of human brains. The Cooper family made a dirty deal with it. They give him food and water, and in return, he tests the shadows. The lucky survivors were granted immortal bodies. This monster, obsessed with gold and jewels, also had a child he guarded with his life. As Sal tried to plunge his sword into the beast's head, he thought this creature was as smart as a human and a stubborn nuisance. He knew for a fact that if he didn't beat it to a pulp, his chances of taming it were 0. After landing the blow, he bounced back to create distance, then lunged to attack again. Realizing he shouldn't hold back in this fight, Sal swung his sword, but Griffin dodged it dismissively. Then Griffin opened that huge beak of his and vomited a massive blast of energy onto Sal like a cyclone. Her tiny, featherweight body was swept to the very edge of the cliff by the wind. Our little one let out a high-pitched scream of fear when he felt himself starting to slide down. He got lucky and grabbed the edge. He reminded himself that he's a 3-year-old brat right now, not 30. Sadly, even those legendary sword skills from his past life were worth nothing in this tiny body. If he got close, Griffin would have one-shot him. The only way was to put a door on that cave. He looked up at the higher cave entrance and saw the griffin gathering strength, ready to blow again. The plan was simple. When the monster fired a powerful wind bullet, Sal dodged to the side. This bird's wind magic was no joke. Every time the griffin blasted wind from its mouth, its power grew exponentially and leveled up. Once the power hit level 10, even 100 warriors like Sal would have been minced meat. While running from the wind, Sal had a sly idea. It stopped and suddenly jumped up. "Since I can't hide, I'll use this wind to hurl me into the cave," he said, drawing his sword. He took a defensive stance and cried out in pain as the wind hit him like a sledgehammer, throwing him back. As he was thrown back by the impact, he quickly tapped into the dark power of Shadow Soak to minimize the damage. While I was pulling power from the domain, the poor thing was sipping its tea and just dropped the cup. As the cup shattered into pieces, his servant cried out in a panic, "Sir, are you all right?" Meanwhile, Sal managed to enter the cave. "I think we're home free," he said, and bolted deep into the cave. He had to hurry. Griffin reached the cave entrance, and could already hear rattling coming from inside. With an angry roar, he dove after Sal, but his face fell when he reached the end of the cave. When she saw Sal threatening her cub with a sword, she growled, but Sal had already sent the message. Few knew that the babies of mighty creatures like griffins were born with broken wings and couldn't fly. While Griffin was demanding to know what he'd do to his child, Sal calmly and cheekily brushed him off. "I won't hurt the baby. I'll even heal its wings, but only if you behave," he said, starting his dirty deal. But the broken-winged griffin wanted to rule the skies again, and Sal gave this beast an offer he couldn't refuse. Meanwhile, the sadistic instructor Enos and his sidekick reached the summit, only to find that little Sal had vanished. Thinking the monster had eaten the child like a snack, they hurried to Elena with the good news, dreaming of the reward they'd get. Just as they grinned thinking of the loot, the massive Shadow and Sal appearing behind them cut their excitement short. While Enos and his sidekick froze in fear, Sal crossed his arms, scanning them like a hunter watching his prey. With an evil smile on his face, he gleefully whispered that he'd send them to hell first, and to wait for him there. As Enos's startled screams hung in the air, the duo saw the griffin attack and took to their heels. While they screamed in disbelief at what was happening, the griffin had already devoured one of the men in minutes. The well-fed beast growled that he had fulfilled his part of the deal, and that it was now the clever boy's turn. Sal let out a deep sigh, acting resigned to his fate, and asked for the course to be set toward the northernmost dungeons of the mountain range. When the griffin landed at the massive gate of the Stone Realm dungeon, it reminded Sali that he had to find the Pax, that famous sword. He would take Perseus' sword and, in return, provide the griffin with the legendary Medusa blood that heals all ills. Even though he smirked and said it was child's play, deep down, he felt her real goal wasn't to help, but to bring the place down. As the doors burst open and light leaked into the dark room, the snake-haired Gorgon Medusa and 3 guardian statues appeared before them. Our guy's plan was to use Griffin's brute force to demolish the dungeon, but things wouldn't go as he expected. The moment Griffin lunged at one of the statues, the lifeless heap of stone dodged with unexpected agility. When the shattered statue repaired itself in seconds, our boy realized the gravity of the situation. This freakish trio was missing 5 organs. Just like those famous Greece sisters in mythology, they shared a single eye and tooth. Descending from sea gods, they were able to bend water. Griffin kept shouting that escape was useless. Dust and smoke filled the air as Sali was pressured to find the sword before the monster brought the ceiling down. As Sal examined the ancient runes on the wall, it suddenly clicked, and he found the answer he sought. He planned to collapse this entire cursed area and bury everything underground before escaping through the secret tunnel. He relied on his past life's experience, but destruction might not be enough. That's why he told Griffin about that critical move written in the runes. The only way was to take out that damn eye up there. The moment the griffin swung its claw, the attack stopped like a knife cut. As the statue turned into a puddle, Sal explained how Perseus caught Medusa off guard by stealing this shared eye. The eye was their Achilles' heel. Once the danger passed, Griffin immediately got to the point, the healing blood and the sword. The monster, curious about the rune's secret, pointed to that legendary weapon with his gnarled finger. It said both red and green blood flowed from the sword Perseus used to behead Medusa. The red one poisoned and killed every living soul, while the green was a cure for the deadliest ailments. Of course, these were just fairy tales, but this dungeon had one more dark secret. The moment the sword appeared, the bells for Medusa's resurrection would begin to toll. As the Medusa statue trembled to life, Sal already knew it was time to depart. He wouldn't stop until his head was taken by that cursed sword. When Sal turned around, his giant partner was nowhere to be found. Cowering behind a rock, the cowardly griffin muttered that this task was over his head and that the statue was a tough nut to crack. The monster who said he didn't want to die and dumped all the dirty work on our boy was a total disappointment. Seeing the huge monster shrink like a mouse in fear, Sal was prepared, luckily having cleared this dungeon before. He relied on experience from his past life, but he wasn't completely helpless. First, he had to steal the shield of the Knights of the Round Table. Only then could he use the shield's reflection to minimize the risk of looking directly into Medusa's damned eyes. Otherwise, a moment of carelessness could easily turn him into stone, ending up as nothing more than garden decor. He could also use the shield to block Medusa's gaze attacks. But when Medusa cast her deadly gaze, he realized that damned shield wasn't enough. The secret exit was destroyed, and with his current pathetic power level, using Perseus's sword seemed impossible. But he refused to salute. He couldn't have known without trying. If he hadn't given it his all, he would have bit the dust out there today. So he risked everything and reached for the sword. And bingo! Surprisingly, he picked up the sword as easily as if it were a toothpick. The sword was light as a feather in his hand. But that jerk Ellen had drilled it into his head that his talent was trash, and he was just a D-rank loser. He used to say it wasn't even worth staining the holy sword. Sal remembered that dark moment of the crucifixion. Ellen was asking her mother if Celine was conscious. While implying they'd strip her of her talent, her heartless mother said a simple memory wipe spell would suffice. Sal recalled how Ellen's swordsmanship talent was usurped. Griffin stood frozen in shock as he tore those bonds apart. Escaping without taking a single hit, Sal recalled that in his past life, he possessed S-class, or perhaps even higher, sword skills. But that witch had used some kind of dark magic to strip this divine gift from him. And he transferred that talent to spoil Elena and wipe Saline's memory. Things were starting to get much more interesting now. Whether it's Ellen or that damn family of hers, Sal swore he would take a bitter revenge. Noticing this eerie change in Sal's behavior, Griffin grew curious but decided to seize the chance to escape, as Sal seemed to be losing control. As Griffin tried to bolt, Sal called out to him. Despite being an S-class monster, the Griffin trembled in fear and asked why he had been summoned. He couldn't understand why they were so afraid of a tiny brat. Without hesitation, Sal asked Griffin if his head was made of metal. Griffin then realized that Saline had been using him all along. It turns out he was just a pawn to destroy the hidden realm. But since Sal was able to heal his young, Griffin decided to overlook this cunning. When they left the hidden realm, Griffin did Sal a huge favor. No matter how many attacks he takes, he'll never be hurt. He granted an immortal body. Sal felt his body getting stronger to his very core. And minor wounds healed instantly. Now that the wounds had faded, he wouldn't have to reflect the damage taken onto his hand. This situation was already a burden that could rouse your cunning mother's suspicions. What's more, Sal had to keep his S-rank sword skill a secret for now. Otherwise, it could have caused unnecessary trouble. Sal threw a potion at Griffin. He said to let her chick drink this, and that way its wings would heal. Griffin was over the moon when he gave the potion to his young one, and saw it take flight. But Sal cut his excitement short. The little one could finally fly now, yes. But if no master accepted him before he proved his worth, he'd grow up to be nothing but a brainless, foolish bird. When Griffin confusedly asked what he meant, Sal said that as a stranger, he was just giving some well-intentioned advice. After all, even Griffin only became this powerful after accepting a master. Griffin realized Saline was right. If its previous owner hadn't fed it fresh human brains every day, its intelligence wouldn't have awakened and grown this strong. But Griffin's psychopathic master had died 100 years ago. And where else could he find someone as ruthless as her? Griffin then asked Saline to take the cub as a pet. Because Saline thought that with his immense intelligence and talent, he could even surpass Bleedy in the future. Sal realized that Griffin took the bait. And she said she could accept the cub. But of course, on the condition that they make a little deal. Griffin wanted all the dirt on Sal Cooper and that precious key. The key that opens the secret shrine where the Cooper family worships the sword spirit Bleed. Meanwhile, chaos erupted at Malik Mother's. The Queen Mother was fuming at the steward, who couldn't figure out why his hand kept fainting, demanding to know how long this would last. The butler panicked and tried to calm her down, telling her not to worry. She reminded that the young master is under the Shadow Oath's protection and always recovers quickly. After all, The little shadows absorbed his wounds and restored his strength. The woman had begun to believe the housekeeper. But a gnawing doubt still remained inside. It felt like Ella's condition took a turn for the worse after that shadow ceremony. And he suspected someone was behind it. Right then, the butler dropped the bombshell. Sal reported that Cooper took first place in the aptitude test. As expected, the butler was about to reveal yet another shocking truth. After Sal gave that old guy the griffin's steak and turned the beast's offspring into a pet, the matriarch was shell-shocked by the news and demanded to know where that troublemaker Sal was. With a smug look, the steward hinted that the executioner is waiting at the door and will be brought in right away. Our psycho Sal walked in acting like he hadn't just committed a massacre, looking all innocent and asking how he could help. The woman, still in shock and shaking, wondered why she'd sent the walkers to their graves. But Sal coolly told a lie, claiming he did it all for the sake of family happiness. A mighty shadow training officer, taken out by a 3-year-old brat. The guy was so incompetent that Sal thought the Cooper family shouldn't have to deal with such trash. He sees that sheer burst of hatred and rage on the matriarch's face, but does he even care? Never. Even if she plays all her cards, our guy shows no sign of fear. Gritting her teeth, the woman ordered the steward to reward Sally for his recovery at Paradise Spring. But after Sal left the room, he showed his true colors. He said to speed up the research on that hideous deprivation spell before the Sword Soul inheritance ceremony. Looks like they're getting ready to suck someone's blood. That immense talent of yours should have been ripped out and mounted on that useless little gentleman. The woman knows full well that if that big secret gets out, that is, if that incompetent Alan's total lack of sword skills is revealed, his inheritance will slip right through his fingers. Meanwhile, as our Sal enjoyed the fountain of paradise, the words of that senile bird griffin echoed in his mind. Vlad Cooper sealed his soul with forbidden magic before he died. His goal was quite simple. It was to pass down all the swordsmanship he amassed to that lucky heir with class skills. This was meant to spread the Cooper family's fame across the empire and make their enemies burst with envy. Griffin gave the salad recipes. Diving into flow of Eden Spring would lead him to a hidden underground cave, the bonus level. The key in his hand would lead him to the owner, but at Eden Springs, something smelled fishy. Something fishy was going on. Poor Griffin had been away from his master so long that his brain turned to mush, and he forgot his mission requirements. The only detail its bird brain remembered was that the master used blood magic. So this wasn't going to be a walk in the park. Hearing the mention of blood magic, Sal realized that jumping in before Alan claimed the inheritance would be harder than pulling teeth. While the local brats gossiped about Sal's achievements, that total idiot Renault stepped up once again to mock him. With his tiny brain, he couldn't believe how our skinny monkey was the first to reach the top. In Sal's previous life, these types were, yes man, lowlifes, but in reality, they were spy pawns planted by Alan. It was these scumbags who spread those disgusting lies about collaborating with the enemy and acted like kings because Alan was behind them. They had grown used to getting everything they wanted. Things changed when Renault crossed the line and tried to throw a punch at Sal. He was supposed to test if that invincible body worked or not, but Sal blocked the punch and taught him a lesson in power. When the sidekick attacked with a knife, Sal used Renault as a human shield and let his own man stab him. That was a total psychopath move. Then he tossed these two losers into the water, thinking they'd recover anyway. He wanted to use it as a training sandbag in the future. In this life, Sal would make them an offer they couldn't refuse, turning them both into his loyal dogs. Sal sensed the aura of dark magic in the water. What was this damn energy, equivalent to blood magic, doing in a healing source? In this sacred pool that heals all diseases, that oddity Griffin mentioned was definitely nothing but this dark energy. No matter the situation, Sal couldn't go into that water. He had to find a way to get to the bottom of the source without getting even a single drop wet. Otherwise, it could have been game over. Just then, he heard a familiar cry for help and headed to the scene. He was dragging a poor girl by her hair just because a maid couldn't serve tea properly. Sal recognized right away that this girl was Andrea. Just as the servant was about to strike the girl, Sal drew his sword and sent him to the other side in one move. And Andrea thought he was her Prince Charming. Sal apologized, thinking he scared her, but she thanked the hero who saved her life and said her name was Andrea. Andrea was Sal's best friend in her previous life, born with a cheat-like magic talent that far surpassed her peers. They had fought shoulder to shoulder for a few days in the past. While Andrea was thanking him, Sal said, "No problem," like a shy boy. He didn't lose his poise, saying a gentleman should act this way, and asked Andrea if there was a way to drain the water. Or she had to find a way to get into that water without getting wet. After all, we had to remember our main duty and stay on target. If the solution were with Andrea, she definitely would have found a bug. Andrea Sala jumped in by asking if he noticed anything strange in the water. This water healed wounds, but it held a sneaky spell that made everyone who used it addicted. Once tainted by this water, they could no longer accept other healing spells, becoming forever dependent on the source to recover. Now he understood how the Sal Cooper family controlled the shadows. It was literally a drug-dealing tactic. They forced people to beg their families while they were suffering. Andrea was going to do him a special favor for saving her life. He activated that legendary, hilarious technique, the duck magic, to let him enter without touching the water. With this spell, people could dive underwater without getting wet, just like a duck. The action started as the servants came to catch them. They jumped into the water without a second thought. When the raft hit the bottom of the current, he realized this was the secret level entrance he'd been seeking. Even though Andrea said they couldn't go in, the current sucked them in like a vacuum and tossed them right into the cave. Sal showed the key to Andrea and said this piece of metal would open that secret place where the sword spirit is worshipped. There was no door at all. Maybe I just had to say open sesame. Sal handed the key to our expert Andrea. Even if the girl didn't know what a sword spirit was, she was going to try. The moment he used his magic to call the door, things got messy. A massive monster attacked them, and the door appeared in the creature's mouth. Sal put Andrea to sleep and told you to wait here. He hid the girl using the invisibility magic he learned in his past life, not wanting her to be targeted by mobs in moments of danger. After all, there was going to be a bloody, ugly, and heavy-effect boss battle inside to claim the sword's sole inheritance. When Sal stepped through the door, he thought he was ready for anything, but the sight he saw left him speechless. Disguised as a medical spa, Eden Springs was actually an adult playground of pure indulgence. We are in the dark dungeons where the Cooper family kept their famous collection of concubines. Sal finally catches the scent of the foul fate awaiting them. Sensing a level 1 presence, the monster mockingly questions if the kid before him is truly Sal Cooper. Word is the kid was born with her talent, but the monster implies he wasn't pampered at all. If anything, he's just a bastard. The creature warning this little guest chasing the inheritance grins, making it clear he won't hand over the treasure so easily. Of course, he has to pass him first. Sal is perfectly calm because he's not here to chat. He's here to finish off that freak creature. The monster attacks and mocks Salene's weakness, but the tide turns when it notices the griffin's blessing on the boy. Surprised for a moment that the stupid bird recognizes the boy, the creature's arrogance immediately returns. He sacrificed most of his power to seal the blood spirit. The monster reminds you of this for old time's sake. Even if Salene's skills are still trash, he has a 1 in a million chance to get the inheritance. Sal, completely unfazed, activates a restrictive blood magic formation, reminding the monster it's already dead, it just forgot to be buried. He gives the creature a short history lesson about the techniques the Empire has developed to deal with blood magic over the last century. To seize the legacy by force, all he has to do is rip out that rotten heart. As the raft hurtles toward the monster, the creature lets out that annoying laugh again. The monster, saying he hasn't played with a little mouse in a long time, screams that playtime is over and things are getting serious. While he respects Salene's talent, he tells him point-blank he's still not worthy of the legendary sword technique's legacy. By manipulating blood, he takes control of blood spirits, and rains a deadly flurry of attacks down on Salene. Though Sal Persis draws his sword and tries to resist the spell, the monster shatters the protective shield with a single touch, as if it were glass. The creature, lifting the boy by his throat, announces that the cat and mouse game is over and it's time to eat. It's time for the mouse to be devoured. As its essence and blood are drained, the monster pauses for a moment and sniffs. A curious look appears on his face. Salene's aura reminds him of that concubine he relished eating last time. It's like the taste is still lingering. Maybe he's feeling a twisted joy, thinking that woman was your mother, and now he finally gets a taste of her offspring. Sal remembers the moments he was bullied as a kid. Memories of his mother flood his mind. In those moments when he thinks his mother abandoned him, one of the kids throws a stone at him and yells that his mother threw him in the trash. But at that moment, Sal realizes the painful truth. His mother hadn't abandoned him, she was eaten by this disgusting monster. When Sal attacks the monster in a fury, the creature is stunned by how he knows Beowulf's blood magic. Burning with the fire of vengeance, Sal is willing to burn even his own blood to kill the monster. Realizing it has spent most of its power, the creature decides it must release blood spirits to devour more women and store energy. As the monster turns to feed, Sal appears behind it like a shadow. As he plunges his sword into the monster's head, he asks a bone-chilling question. Was Mom's cooking good? As the monster takes its last breath, a vision of Salene's mother appears before her eyes, calling out to him by name. The monster sees the madness in Sal's eyes, but he's still starving. Or she's really going to die. As Sal prepares to finish it off, the monster starts pleading. She's offering to be your sword's soul. But Sal delivers the final blow, saying you don't deserve this. That legendary swordsmanship inheritance will be etched into your body after absorption. Sal realizes he's almost forgotten that he's been motherless since birth. All those thoughts were just illusions. While asking himself if he's a monster, the reflection in the monster's blood whispers that he isn't one and that his mother is always with him. Just then, Andrea calls out from behind. Seeing him covered in blood, the girl asks where it hurts to help him heal. In her past life, Andrea shared the same terrible fate as those concubines, but Sal. He swears he won't let history repeat itself in this life. The loss of the sword's soul causes huge chaos in the family, and all the guards of Heaven's Spring are sentenced to death. The servants who witnessed the raft's cruelty no longer dare to even look at Andrea sideways. Amidst the lies, Sal is blamed for the disappearance of the soul sword. But with no proof, the matriarch which can only ramp up the torment. Imprisonment, bloodletting, poisoning, Sal survives all of it as if they were just fly bites. 4 years later, on the Cooper family training grounds, Alan destroys a servant. The poor man is begging for mercy. Alan asks if he can defeat him with a sword and this level of skill. The servant says she knows her place and would never dare challenge Alana. Meanwhile, Duke Hugh Isaac, head of the Isaac family, watches Alan and confirms the rumors that Alan was born with high-level sword skills. Isaac and Leon look over to see Sal clearing the room in just a few moves. Isaac notes that ordinary people this age are still stuck at the Iron Sword apprentice level. But Salene's room-clearing speed proves he's already reached the Silver Sword level. Enraged with jealousy toward the fan-favorite Sal, the guard makes that famous one-round duel challenge. Now Sal steps onto the stage to see what this poor guy can do. But Alan has a much more sinister plan in mind. He thinks this duel is the perfect chance to send Sally to the afterlife by accident. The crowd cheers for Alan as the two face off. Drunk with victory and certain he'll win, Alan goes on the attack. Sal brushes off the attack without lifting a finger, shattering the boy's world by implying Alana needs to try a little harder. Just one move is enough to toss Alan aside like a trash bag. Furious and thinking it's impossible, he lunges at Sal again. His mother told him no one in the family was his equal, but at that moment Sala realizes how thin and fragile the sword he swings actually is. It's plain as day that sword is beefed up with magic. Turns out there wasn't even a shred of swordsmanship in our field. Sal shows how a real attack would be, leaping into the air and ruthlessly stabbing the sword into Alan's eye. At this moment, Duke Isaac turns to Duke Leon and tells him how wrong he was. Mocking Alan's incompetence, Isaac goes as far as asking if the servants lost on purpose. Leon is fuming at this disrespect. Isaac quickly backtracks and apologizes, but makes it clear he doesn't want his sister engaged to such a useless man. Not backing down, Leon hits back, implying that without the royal family's approval, his sister would have ended up an old maid. Isaac wants Leon to repeat himself with a threatening look, but likely due to the tension, he decides to just turn and leave. Although he says he won't trouble Leon further before leaving, he reminds him not to forget those grand family operations in 10 days. Leon turns to his servant and asks who that little shadow is. The maid whispers that her name is Sal. The fact that this child, born of an unknown mistress, is actually his own blood, his son, finally dawns on Leo. Now it was clear where his sword skill came from. Leon gives the servant an order, and has Sally brought to the study immediately. Sal enters the room and kneels respectfully, but Leon grows suspicious when he cannot feel even a trace of mana in the boy. Is this sly brat saving his strength to seize the throne in the future? But Leon concludes that he is just an ordinary boy who's easy to read. Sala is ordered to lead the Shadow Unit to the Lost Crystal City with the Isaac family within 10 days. The goal is to capture the dragon egg. Leon hands Sal the special sword that will open the gate to Crystal City. The key to the mission is to provoke the demon dragon. Sal, of course, senses the dirty motive behind Leo sending him there. But it would be foolish to miss out on loot like a dragon egg. That's why he's accepting the mission, despite the trap. Leona says she has a request. Once they set off, Andrea asked Sala if he had informed the head of the family that he was following. Because it's not appropriate at all for a servant to go on such a dangerous journey. Sal nonchalantly says it's not a problem. When they arrive at Crystal City, he asks about the whereabouts of Crystal and the egg. Gloria starts subtly mocking the team for their ignorance of Crystal City. Though he reaches out to officially introduce himself, Sal ignores him and tells Andrea to wait with Mio, that little griffin. Gloria is still following Sal like a shadow, hoping to finally get an answer. Sal says if they don't open the portal before sunset, everything will be in vain. And in his mind, those annoying memories of his past life with Gloria resurface. Cursing his fate, he thinks to himself, did I really run into this nuisance of a woman again? Luckily, that stupid bird drops the subject, hoping Mio will complete the mission. When Gloria and Sal open the portal, all hell breaks loose. While the Cooper family's servants are frozen in shock, the Isaac family guards explain that this is a teleportation formation. Crystal City appearing behind the portal is dazzling. Sal wonders if the demon dragon egg is really in such a heavenly place. Just then, he notices a frenzied guard making devious preparations to take out Cooper's soldiers. The guy wants to take the dragon egg to the Isaac family alone and claim the big reward. It's a perfect example of greed. While Sal tries to save them, he blocks the attack of the light guard from Crystal City who leaped out of the portal. As one of the guards is about to attack Isaac's man, Gloria bursts onto the scene and cuts him down. After knocking down the sentry, he asks the guard who gave him this order. The man just stammers that he did it for his family out of fear. Gloria knows for a fact that this is about personal ambition. Just as another guard is about to attack Gloria, Sal saves her life with a single sword stroke. Sal, ordering the Shadow Guild into formation, stands against the Sentinels of Light. Let's see if the power of light or its shadow will prevail. Isaac's men watch with mouths wide open as Sal takes out all the guards like it's nothing. They're asking themselves if it's that famous Cooper family who fuses magic with swordsmanship. After all, Sal is just a kid, but his power is no joke. Even Gloria can't help but be impressed by this performance. But Sal has already scavenged the crystals. His level instantly leaps from Silver Sword Guard to Gold Swordmaster. When he takes a step, the altar starts to play, and the secret passage to the dragon's lair opens. The team wastes no time in climbing up to the altar. Suddenly, they found themselves in the demon dragon's lair, surrounded by dragon eggs. It's like Easter, but the eggs might eat you. There are enough eggs in the den for everyone. So no one's gonna get greedy and turn on each other. But the Shadow Squad is so lazy that Sal can't help but snap at them. He sarcastically pointed out that at this rate, they'd only end up as dinner for the dragon. Right then, that massive demon dragon appeared behind them in all its glory. While everyone else scrambled like chickens, only Sal and Gloria drew their swords and took a fighting stance. We'll see if they're real heroes or just foolishly brave. Sal ordered everyone to grab the eggs and clear out, saying he'd clean up the mess. But they saw that Gray had already grabbed the egg and bolted. It turns out the cruel head of the Cooper family ordered Gray to destroy the teleportation altar after getting the eggs. So basically, I don't care if the ones in the back die tactic. The goal is to make sure Isaac's family doesn't get the chance. Gray smugly babbled that only one family in the Empire could own a dragon egg. and she just said the family was the Coopers and ran off. Gloria cried out how ruthless the head of the family was, and how he basically left them to die. They had given up not just on the team, but even on Sully. But for our crazy Sal, this was a predicted scenario, Gloria asked in shock. If you knew, why did you come here to die? Sal told her she was overthinking it and that he didn't plan on dying here. Then he charged the dragon, slicing its wing like a leek in one single move. When the raft hit the ground, Gloria opened her light shield and protected the boy from the dragon's wrath. Is it love, a sense of duty, or just plain stupidity? Sal egged the girl on to distract the dragon so he could land a critical hit on its heart. And of course, he stroked his ego by saying nobody else but you could do this. Fired up, Gloria ran at the dragon to prove she's a great Swordmaster and to show off to Sal. It's a total distraction show. While dancing with the dragon, Sala ordered an attack, but to his surprise, Sal just stood there watching like he was at a movie. Gloria thought poor Sal had run out of energy, and if she didn't do something, they would all be dead. In desperation, she played her last card, thinking her demolition sword dance had brought the dragon down. But alas! The monster didn't just fall, it triggered its berserk mode and got back up even more furious. While everyone scrambled for cover, Sal unblinkingly began transforming the dragon's blood into clones of himself. The guy turned out to be a literal bloodbender. One of the shadow members noticed Sal's sword had turned into a new god-tier treasure. Gloria is in shock. This is forbidden blood magic, and only the family head can use it in the Empire. Using this technique to mow down enemies on the battlefield, the girl immediately thought of those rumors. Word got out that the Cooper family sword spirit vanished, but before he could finish the thought, the penny dropped. Sal used Gloria as bait on purpose to pull the raft. The girl literally waited for the dragon to bleed out. Though Gloria seethed over it being used, Sal brushed it off as if it were no big deal. He was a wasted pawn in his previous life. He wasn't about to just sit back and accept his fate. Revenge is a dish best served cold, after all. When Sal decapitated the demon dragon, Gloria ran to him with joy. But instead of a hug, he found a sword pointed at his face. I expected romance, but it turned into a thriller. Our boy had fallen under the demon's influence. The demon he just killed was now racing through his mind, whispering that Sala would never let him rest. He needs more meat and blood to maintain his strength. Just like that greedy demon. The voices in his head told him to kill Gloria. He even told them to add the shadow members to the menu. As Sal lunged at them with bloodlust, his eyes suddenly caught Andrea. And the stage fades to black. After a while, Sal opened his eyes outside with Andrea by his side. The girl cast a purification spell on him, so he's safe from turning into a demon for now. He got off easy. He said the others were also like Turks. Then he took out the dragon egg gray mist and gave it to Sal. That's what they call stealing eggs from a thief. Isaac explained he hadn't told his family about the egg, and Gloria and her crew had already split. The girl turned out to be a total pro spy. No more worrying about failing the mission. Sal thanked the girl, but deep down he was like, I wasn't even worried about it anyway. But the truth was different. Neil was actually going to take Andrea to a prearranged location and fake her accidental death to smuggle her out of the family. It was planned for him to gain his freedom. As soon as Sal heard of this betrayal, he drew his sword and attacked Mio. His reflexes are sharp as a tack, knock on wood. But Mio immediately went on the defensive. He said it wasn't his fault, and that Andrea was so worried about the raft she insisted on entering that secret realm. Love requires sacrifice, of course. Just as Andrea tried to calm things down, the shadow members behind pulled their swords and ran toward him, yelling. What is it now, hopefully? Sal, they finally showed their true colors. He prepared for war, thinking they'd steal the egg. But he had no idea what's a purse was waiting for him. They got that traitor's grave without a second thought, then kneel before the raft like dogs after making him pay for his betrayal. The types acting all tough before are now crying and begging for forgiveness, admitting that if Sal Reese hadn't stepped in when that damn family left them for dead, they'd be pushing up daisies by now. They kick their families to the curb and swear a blood oath to follow the tide until their last breath. But before our boy can even open his mouth, things get messy. Because that famous demon dragon egg snaps open and a terrifying creature bursts out. Sal starts chatting with this monster like he's some kind of cat lover, and it's just unbelievable. But that wild beast accepts Sally as master and bows down. The Shadow members celebrate this insane achievement, shouting, "Bravo, boss!" And just like that, the rebel army Sal Cooper will use against that rotten family is officially formed. But the camera is cutting back to those rich snobs' mansion now. Alan, the family's spoiled brat, is clinging to his mother's skirt and whining about when they're going horse riding. The woman tells him they can leave once his father finishes his work. Dad walked into the room like a powder keg. Our lazy boy Alan gets scolded all day since he just lies around. Because while Sal's out there slapping dragons and taming their young, Alan's just messing around. But his mother immediately steps in, coddling him and saying it's not her prince's fault. And according to her, anyone else could have tamed a dragon too. What a lie! Anyway, he takes his son to the racetrack. Alan's barking orders at the guys, telling them to bring the jeep quick. While Vele's in danger, that snake-eyed mother kicks off her sinister plan, asking the servants how the research on the famous talent-stealing deprivation spell is going. The servant brings good news. Research completed successfully. The only thing left is to find an S-rank sacrificial lamb to test the spell on. If the test works, they'll use that nasty spell on our Sal Cooper right away. 5 full years go by. Andrea is putting our girl through a cleansing ritual so she doesn't turn demonic on Tuesday. This way, our boy will be able to use sword techniques however he wants. Sal politely thanks her, but as she flirts, saying she should be the one thanking him for the legendary staff, something moving outside the window catches Sal's eye. The guy's already long gone, but Sal knows this sneaky rat. This is the house steward. Right after, Sal's loyal men burst in and start reporting. The secret mission he gave his men has paid off. They followed that sneaky steward like a shadow and exposed every single one of his schemes. Turns out this scumbag was gathering dark wizards from all around. They're preparing to hold a nasty ritual in 3 days. Things are about to get ugly. Plus, they blabbed about finding a new sacrifice with an S-level talent. The power of these mages is no joke. They're some pretty tough guys. Sal solves the problem immediately. They'll definitely try to use talent-stealing magic, she says. But something's on his mind. Why don't they attack him directly? And since they're looking for another S-rank target, thunderbolts are flashing in Salene's mind. Who could that target with such high magic power be? Of course, Andrea. Damn it. 3 days later, our poor girl gets suspicious after seeing the mess in the warehouse. Just as she's about to tidy up with magic, that devious rock leaps from the shadows, knocks her out, and kidnaps her. That bastard wastes no time. Dark wizards are starting their disgusting rituals right away. Oh, power of the night. Hear my command from the depths of the heart. They're talking nonsense. Let power gather in my palm and flow to me like a shadow. They're tensing up the atmosphere by saying that. The steward has already pointed that cursed dagger at the unconscious Andrea. His plan is horrific. He thinks that by mixing the blood from her heart with magic, they can steal Andrea's immense talent. He stabs the dagger with all his might, but what's this? Suddenly, the girl vanishes into thin air. Stunned, the butler looks around in confusion. Like, what the hell is going on here? Andrea calls out to him with her school voice. He says it's just an illusion, and he should never underestimate it. And bam! With the shining starlock spell, she pins the butler to the spot. Now the man is learning the hard way that Andrea bit off more than she can chew. The panicked housekeeper shouts to his mages, "Bring that girl down!" Andrea immediately covers her eyes and ears, just as Sal instructed. Because all hell is about to break loose. The mages freeze in terror when they look up. Before them stand a massive griffin and that demon dragon. Where did these monsters come from? They're about to wet themselves. Seeing the monsters, it finally clicks for the butler. It's impossible for the name behind this destruction to be anyone but Sal Cooper. Sal appears like the angel of death, roaring that anyone who touches Andrea must have a death wish. And why? He asks if they chose him specifically. The butler starts singing like a nightingale. Turns out this damn spell can only be cast on a person once. To ensure the young master could receive Ellen Salene's talent smoothly, they had to test it on a human first. The man's crawling on the ground begging, "Don't kill me, please have mercy," and clutching his feet. And he's just hiding behind the lie that he was only following orders. When Sal realizes Andrea became a target because of him, his conscience kicks in and he surprisingly says he'll let her go. But of course, on one condition. He casts the shadow oath on the man and gives him a mission. He'll go back and tell that hag mother that the experiment was a success. And right after that, she'll say they can cast the spell on Sal. Or she knows very well what the oath would do to him. The butler is puzzled and asks why. Sal says it with a smirk, just to show everyone Ellen's true colors. Returning to the Cooper mansion, the butler gives Matrona a false report as planned. He says the experiment is going smoothly. Meanwhile, our clingy Ellen is trying to lead his fiancée Gloria into the garden. But the girl rejects him, saying, "Get out of here." When the matron asked if she was sure, the stewardess. She's definitely hyping it up, saying the upcoming full moon and the young master's coming-of-age ceremony are the perfect timing. The woman's eyes sparkle. That dark dream she's had for years is finally about to come true. He's screaming in triumph inside. Finally, she believes she can make her only son, Ellen, not just the head of the family, but the most powerful man in the empire. He's clearly blinded by ambition. On the other side, shameless Ellen is still after Gloria. He doesn't get that she said no, and then he has the nerve to call me, sweetie, like he's flirting. He's just getting ahead of himself. He finds his mother's advice to pay attention to your fiancé unnecessary. Because according to this narcissistic snob, everyone in the world should be chasing after him anyway. Drown your ego, Ellen. Gloria draws her sword and interrogates this useless brat. Is this wimp really worthy of being his fiancé? He says you have to beat me first. Our coward Ellen quickly calls for someone, while Sal suddenly makes an entrance on stage. He's repeating our guy's words and making fun of him. Fuming with jealousy, Ellen snaps back. Who invited you? Look at this liar, acting like he forgot to bring his sword. Gloria is surprised by current form and immediately offers to train. But he rejects the girl, saying, "Let it go, I'm busy today." Watching from the side, Ellen's biting her nails, wondering when they got so close. Or is she head over heels for him? Gloria reloads the raft, saying not everyone can sweat it out with me, don't push your luck. Just as Ellen was about to explode with jealousy over her fiancé, her mother called, and she backed down like a submissive kitten. That creep plans to make the girl's life a living hell once they get married. And since Gloria doesn't give him the time of day, he leaves with his tail between his legs. With our loser gone, Gloria makes her move. Either you fight me, or I'll gut you right here. Sal agrees to it, but of course, with a devilish condition. Our protagonist, Sal, arranges a secret meeting with his future ally, Duke Isaac, and gives him an offer he can't refuse. Gloria says she found a way to break the engagement between her and that wimp, but in return, she wants the Isaac family's famous heirloom box. This thing called the Illusion Time Box is the heart of Sal's plan. In his past life, Duke Isaac couldn't stand that playboy and wanted nothing to do with the Cooper family. No matter how many times he tried to cancel this ridiculous engagement, the royal family shut him down every time, leaving the poor man exhausted. At this point in life, Sal decides to take full advantage of the Duke's desperation. Duke Isaac refuses to yield, finding Sally way too arrogant. He belittles how a commoner like you could break an engagement personally approved by royalty, and on top of that, he's fuming that you dare to bargain. Sal, however, stays calm, claims he's the only one to clean up this mess, and draws his sword. Duke Isaac was shocked to see that glow, of course. At that moment, he realizes he's not facing a common thug, but a real Cooper gem with S-class talent. Sal, Duke takes it to the end. Since the engagement can't be officially broken, he says they must completely eliminate that trashy young master, the heir. 1 month later the intrigue begins. The housekeeper reports to the lady. Whispers that everything is ready, but Sal Cooper isn't among the other illegitimate children, and young Master Allen went to find him. The witch matriarch brushes it off, saying she knows the situation, and orders her to help the others. Meanwhile, those poor illegitimate children are whispering among themselves, and one of them asks why they're even here. He asks if they were called just to feed his ego and polish his status. Will they just become his loyal dogs just to keep him comfortable? The other whispers that your true sword skill was in the attack, and that you were wrong. He says he's destined to lead the family, but the third child tells them to shut their mouths if they want to keep their heads. Just then, one of the servants approaches Duke Cooper, reminding him that all the guests are seated and they shouldn't keep them waiting any longer. They follow the instructions and start the show. Just then, Duke Isaac bursts in and wants to speak with Duke Cooper. Cooper says he doesn't recall inviting him at all, but Duke Isaac smirks, stating he couldn't miss his future brother-in-law's coming-of-age ceremony and must be there to enjoy the fun. Lying in ambush at the corner, Sal signals his men. Illusion says it's time to activate the time box. Magical words fill the air, as ports of nothingness and the fantasy realm of shadows awaken. Virtual reality is turning on. Once the spell is finished, Alan sneaks up and asks Sala why she's hiding there alone. Sal is waiting there, bound in chains. Andrea is horrified when she sees Saline is in danger from afar. He realizes this isn't a dream, but a bloody reality from his past life. That rare talent awakened by time mages, the power of stars kicks in. Mages with this power can glimpse the past and future through fragments of time. Andrea sees Saline is in trouble and rushes to help. He needs to stop Alan before he makes his move. When he arrives, he sees Alanine Sala offering him the poisoned wine given to her as a reward. Andrea casts a spell to put the area to sleep for a few months, but this guy named Gray shows up and drags her away. The female head of the household is secretly surprised, but look, a vampire woman and a Krayler are looking for you. Duck had said the girl's powers were taken away. So how is this girl still able to cast spells? Still, he just shrugs it off because there's no time to think about it now. The deprivation ceremony is far more urgent. Sal drinks the wine, passes out, and finds himself nailed to a cross. She's standing up to Alana even while tied up. He's asking who this guy is, thinking he could have an S-class talent. But Alan beats up Sally and screams. Who does he think he is, thinking he can own a demonic dragon? Does he think he can win Gloria's interest? She's screaming that everything must belong to her. Alan's mother orders her son to stop chatting and get to work. The steward presents that special dagger to Alana. This blade is designed to temporarily pierce Sal's invincible body. Alan mercilessly plunges the dagger into Sal's heart, and announces that the swordsmanship skill has now passed to him. Sala declares its destiny, and from today onwards, Alan is the only true and worthy heir of the Cooper family. He's blathering about having the strongest abilities and that no one can ever surpass him. Instead of suffering, Sal bursts into laughter and sarcastically asks Alana if she's putting on a theatrical performance. He breaks his chains effortlessly, and tells Alana to open her eyes and see who fate really belongs to. The moment Sal snaps his fingers, the illusion lifts, revealing that all this carnage is actually happening in the middle of the ballroom. Murmurs begin among the guests, questioning how the Cooper family could sink so low. They didn't expect the young master to have such a shameful character. So the rumors about Alan having an S-class skill were all just a big lie. They're asking if this man is worthy of being the heir. People turn their faces away in disgust as they see Alan's true self. The female head of the household can't believe her eyes. How could Sal have known what they were planning? As far as he knew, the court and the plan were successful. So where did things go wrong? But right now, his only concern is saving his skin. Alan lunges forward in a panic, shouting to everyone that they'd been tricked and that Sal framed him. And his mother immediately agrees with her son. Just as they think they'll clear their names, Duke Isaak steps in. And he mocks them, saying what an exciting show they're watching. As the Duke walks in, the matriarch Alana says she gave the order and tries to take the blame. But the Duke isn't buying these tricks. And he tosses Alan like a sack of potatoes to the other side. Alan still insists he did nothing wrong, just keeps saying Sal is a prick. Actually, he deserved it all, but people have already started the rumor mill turning. Everyone is talking about how His Grace climbed to that high position through mere brute force. The man can't say he didn't do it in front of everyone, but as a son, he can't exactly spit in his father's face either. The Duke lines up his children, drops the bombshell, and says the succession wars have officially begun. No rules, winner takes all. Naturally, everyone's first goal is to send our area to own the farm. Duke Isaac laughs at that famous Cooper nobility, breaks the engagement, and sets things straight. She kicks the groom out, saying, "Is my daughter really stuck with your lying, loser son?" Duke Cooper knows what's going on. It's all that damn illusion box, and Isaac and Sal are working together. But the place is swarming with nobles. If a scandal breaks out, they'll be the talk of the court. He'll just have to suck it up. For now, he decides to step back and settle the score later, shaking Isaac's hand and saying they'll work it out. He softens the mood by saying he'll make up an excuse for the king, then turns those terrifying eyes towards Sal. He says you can fight for the inheritance, kid, but if you stain our family's honor, I'll wipe you off the map. Typical bad dad threats. Sal snaps back at his father, saying he has no interest in his position. On top of that, he provokes him by saying, "If you're going to delete it now, Dad." Even calling him Dad. While the Duke remains in shock, the servants ask if he'll teach her a lesson, but the Duke just smirks wickedly. The kid's sharp as a tack, let him do whatever he wants. He just has a bit of a character flaw, that's all, he says. On the other side, the lady of the house is fuming with rage. While I'm screaming for the mole, they bring in poor Andrea. He's asking how the kid found out about the plan, but the steward doesn't know either. The woman was about to say feed him to the monsters, but then she notices the girl using magic. Turns out the talent-stealing ritual was a total bust. He turns to the steward and says, "Hey, you said his talents were with you, show them." The poor guy's struggling, saying, "Honestly, I haven't quite figured it out, sir, give me a little more time." But the lady's patience has worn thin, she says it's not necessary and gives the death order. When the swords are raised, the steward cries out in a final struggle, "Cooper forced me to do it!" But in vain, if a dog betrays its owner, it ends up at the butcher's shop, no explanation needed. Now she set her sights on Andrea's talents, she's going to exploit the girl. But Sal didn't expect this much. She showed everyone what Alan's really like, but her father still has no intention of deleting this trash. Or she wonders if they're afraid of that dark mother presence behind Alan. That woman, his mother, locked him in the dungeon so he wouldn't run. Clearly she's consumed by fear. But our boy won't budge an inch until he's had his revenge and made them pay for that pain. When the door rings, he thinks it's Andrea, but it's the stunning Gloria, here to take what's hers. But the moment Sal sees the girl, he starts calculating, thinking if he gets the Isaac family on his side, he'll devour the territory whole. Just as he's making evil plans, Gloria shuts him up and asks what's on his mind. Sal asks slyly, "Why would a high society family like yours hide this thing that just creates illusions?" Gloria was just about to say it to you, but she's already thinking it inside. Everyone knows the legend. She's acting like a classic tsundere, saying, "I'll tell him just so the kid will owe me one." But Sal won't fall for these tricks. He opens the door and shows the girl out, saying, "Come on, sweetie, off you go." The girl lost it, of course, dragging the boy to the training ground and shouting, "Get over here, we're gonna fight!" She attacks with her sword, but Sal takes her out in one move and holds his blade to her throat. The boss is putting on a show again. With an icy stare, Sal says, "A deal's a deal, princess. Now spill the secrets." Gloria's explaining that it's just a legend. She says no one knows if it's real or not. If you harness the power of stars and use this box, something legendary will happen. It says you can sacrifice your own life to send someone else to the past, back to a rebirth. Thunderbolts are flashing in Salene's mind. So Andrea sacrificed her own life to bring him back to life. This time revenge is not enough. He should be cherishing that girl, but right then, disastrous news arrives. The boys are out of breath, saying Andrea has been kidnapped. No need to ask who did it, the war bells have already started ringing. Meanwhile in the forest, Andrea is seen getting bundled up by the witch and her lackeys. Gloria drops the bombshell. Andrea became the young master's servant, and when she grows up, she'll be warming his bed. Our dummy thinks he's the one being mentioned and rushes to save Andrea as soon as he hears the news. Gloria has the servants following her, because that look on Sal's face screams that he's going for a massacre, not a rescue. As for that spoiled brat Alan, he's sworn a death oath against Sal after being humiliated in front of the nobles. He said he'd kill him in the most painful way possible. One of his lackeys immediately whispers that Sal has a weakness for Andrea. The treacherous servant says let's use the girl to make Sal pay the price. Alan loves this sneaky idea, of course. He turns to Andrea and spits out his disgusting plans, saying, "I will make you a concubine worthy of me." The poor girl's magic is sealed, her hands are tied. His only hope is for Salene to come and clear out this mess. She's enjoying imagining what kind of face Sal will make when Alan becomes her slave. He's telling the girl to submit to her fate. But before Alan can even reach out, Sal sends him flying across the room with a flying punch. Now that's justice. The boys are charging, but it's no use, the guy's like a tank. Gloria warns to run while untying the girl since Sal is turning into a demon again. Andrea hugs Sal to calm him down. Just as things settle down, the witch mother finds her son in a total mess. The woman is screaming, "We welcomed you, And is this how you repay us? Sal responds by cutting his hand and letting his blood flow. Alan challenges Cooper to a sacred duel to the death. He is determined to wipe this virus threatening Andrea from the earth. In 7 days, the arena will be full. I'm surprised Sal didn't provoke his opponent and run. He's calling him a chicken. Turns out he's been trembling with fear for a week, but now he's acting all tough. Alan says he won't miss the chance to crush a bug like you. But that cursed energy radiating from the shield is a bad omen. Alan fires Medusa's petrifying laser. While Sal flees, Alan mocks him as a dancing monkey. Unleashing the Shadow Oath won't work on this attack. Because petrification isn't damage, it's a damn status effect. He can't transfer this plague with the Shadow Oath. No choice but to smash that damn shield. Alan smirks, saying you didn't expect this, did you? While Sal steals the sword. This jackal's grabbed Medusa's shield, too. So this is the difference between the Child of Destiny and the Rebel. Sal lunges at him in a rage. But that damn shield stops the attack just like that. Alan remembers he's the Golden Staff Wizard and starts showing off. And vomits blood magic rot onto the raft. Duke Isaac is horrified to see this disgusting black magic. This spell can only be cast through the agonizing death of 1,000 innocents. Isaac is holding Duke Cooper accountable. Cooper smugly tries to cover up the atrocity, saying it's a family secret and to stay out of it. When Sal doesn't run, that idiot yells at him to enjoy the pain. But when the magic doesn't work, their eyes pop out. No one who tried hundreds of times could withstand this decay. But our boy's wide awake. Alan's in shock, seeing the raft doesn't have a single scratch. Sal is attacking, but there's a problem. He realizes Shadow Oath transfers damage to the shadows, so it can't harm the area. Though Alan doesn't understand why the raft was unaffected, he's playing a deadlier trump card now. He activates the life staff to drain the shadow's life force. It's gonna suck you dry just like a vampire. If the target's HP is lower than the health stored in the staff, they'll drop dead instantly. As the shadows walk toward the raft, he laughs like a maniac and swears that your punishment isn't over. But Sal refuses to be treated like a circus animal, and unleashes that horrific forbidden spell, the blood formation. Shadows return to their ancient forms in wild celebration as the raft's demon dragon makes a majestic dive into the duel arena. As Alan tastes defeat, Sal tells him to cherish his breath, because it'll be his last. Duke Isaac will practically choke in shock when he sees the dragon armor. He's questioning whether the legends are real. Legend says that if dragons can unite their will with their masters through intense emotions, they can fully change form and elevate their master's abilities to the heavens. This trick is called dragon armor. Alan is horrified when he sees this view. It screams that this is impossible. Even if Sal gets the monster's approval, their hearts and minds sinking is physically impossible according to him. Thinking it's just a cheap illusion, Alan unleashes a forbidden spell to shatter the vision. Sal tells them to their face that pure rage for the field is what binds their will. When Sal attacks, Alan tries to block with his staff, but Sal steps in with his sword and severs both the staff and Alan's hand from his body. It states that these aesthetic cuts are for the innocents, whose talents were stolen. The Queen Mother leaps from her seat upon seeing her only son Alan covered in blood, but Duke Cooper orders her to sit down. Sal breaks through the forbidden magic barrier, shouting that this is for the shadows who died for Alan and those exploited for their talents, and left for dead in a past life. The bridge is fully cleared. As he was about to punish all peoples present and future, the Queen Mother intervenes to try and save her son. With the help of magical artifacts, he activates Holy Shield, an 8th level spell. Duke Isaac thinks the rumors might be true, that he was injured by a magic backlash while assassinating the Queen's former patriarch. The Duke didn't expect to see the Queen's power. After all, despite being an S-class mage, she retired from fighting after marrying Duke Cooper. The Queen prepares Holy Spear, a level 9 spell, and says if she knew Sal would turn into such a monster, she would have killed him in his cradle. But today, he's determined to clear this mistake. Duke Cooper orders everyone to stop, and it emits an anti-magic wave, neutralizing everyone's armor and abilities. Sala says she's not wanted in the Cooper family. And before he changes his mind and wastes him right there, he orders him to take his men and get the hell out. The patriarch of Isaac's family also accompanies Sal as he leaves the house. Sal tells Duke Isaac that he doesn't need to come with him. Duke Isaac asks him if he's interested in joining the Isaac family. Hearing this offer, Sal asks if being exiled from the family will be a problem for Duke, and if he will declare war on the Cooper family. Sal states he can't join the Dickey family, but he's open to a business deal with him. He hints that the king is gravely ill and a bloody war among the nobles is looming. He says if he can manage to get into the Imperial Academy, he'll likely be the first to hear any news from the capital. The Duke asks why he should trust her and help her enter the academy. Now that Sal's swordsmanship skill is S-class, he thinks it's the perfect time to use this trump card. Duke says he should trust him because he'll be a direct disciple of the secret sword saint, Chris. Meanwhile, hearing his name, a drunk Chris is hiccuping somewhere, wondering who's talking behind his back. Meanwhile, a few days later, in the outskirts of St. Gordon, Sal points toward the 3 towers ahead. Duke tells Isaac these are the Holy Trinity magic towers, the city's strongest defense, and seeing them means they're getting close. Duke Sala warns him to be careful outside school, as St. Gordon's is full of snobbish nobles. Sal's thinking that Duke Isaac isn't a very reliable guy either. He has often stabbed the nation in the back for the sake of his family's interests. So he should handle it himself and look for a chance to slip away from the group. Duke Isaac tells Sala not to worry, saying he'll arrange everything regarding the Imperial Academy. But Mademoiselle Andrea will have to suffer a bit, because she's going to enroll at the school as a servant. That way, the two can live together legally without anyone noticing. As for the guards, Duke Isaac offers to settle them into his own family.